Welcome to Waco Miniature Games. I'm BJ Williams, and today we're going to be assembling a Marauder army for Firefight. We're going to be putting together the miniatures, looking at some of the construction of them, as well as what are the miniatures that make up the army. Then we're going to be priming them and getting them ready to paint. Once we've done that, the next video we'll be looking at how we paint them up. And after that, we're going to have the entire army painted, and soon we'll be able to take them into combat in the game Firefight. So, without further ado, let's get these miniatures put together. All right, I'm ready to start doing some snipping, clipping, and gluing. I'm going to be putting together some of these guys. Now, all sorts of different options are available. We've got the larger laser guns, we've got the claws, we have over here, as you can see, an axe, we've got a hand grenade, we've got all sorts of different possibilities. Then here, we have a whole nother set of possibilities that I'm looking at. So my question is, how in the world will I know how to put these things together? Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, shouldn't that be obvious? Well, it's not entirely obvious, but I can look over here, and the next thing I'm going to look at is that when it gives me my Enforcer Strike Force and my Marauder Strike Force, I could actually create it any way I wanted to, but they've given us a suggestion. The suggestion that they gave it to was for us to use one Commando Captain, 2 additional Commandos. We have 1 Ripper Marauder. That's going to be 2 models. That means that for the Ripper Marauders, that is the Ripper Rainmaker Suit Assembly. I'm going to be building 2 of those for the Rainmakers. And then when I look down here in the 1 Ripper Mauler, the Maulers, I'm also going to be creating 2 of those. Then when I look down here at some of the others, it tells me what I'm going to be making, like 2 groups of Commandos, 10 models with 1 HMG. So I'm going to have my regular Commando assembly options, but one of those is going to have the HMG, which we can see up there in the upper left-hand corner. The rest of them will most likely have the rifles as we go through there. And so I can look at this to tell me which one of the things I'm going to add on so I know what I'm actually utilizing. And that way, when I actually get into battle, I'll have the right miniatures. So, looks like I'm about ready to start snipping. My snipping, I'm going to use one of these snippers. That snipper is what's going to allow me to get this off of the sprue. These are called sprues. And then I'm going to recommend crazy glue. That's what I've been using. I've used other kinds of glue as well. The advantage to the crazy glue is that it does have a brush, and that brush allows me to brush onto the areas without having to worry about a lot of it leaking out onto my fingers and becoming a lot more difficult to utilize. So crazy glue, miniatures, and clippers, and I'm ready to go. All right, so as I'm getting ready to build these, I looked over here and saw the information there, but then I'm like, ooh, what are these guys supposed to look like? So I decided to go into the force lists and decided to take a look here. I can tell that a regular Commando with flamethrower looks like this, another Commando with rifles like this, but the Brawler is the one that has like the claw in his hand, something that you use in damage like that. And here's another Commando with rifle, but that gives me a little bit more idea what I'm building here. And then here's the Commando leader. He's got the big axe and he's got a pistol in his hand. But this gives me a little bit more of an idea before I actually start doing my gluing my guys, cutting them out and gluing them together. Well, right here you will see I have finished off with my Marauder Strike Force, and I have all the different units right here. It took me about 2 days to put these together. I'd like to show them to you and talk to you a little bit about what I found. First of all, as I was doing Firefight's list here, I went down to the Marauders, and this is how I figured out how many figures of each kind of model to create. And then I looked inside right here to figure out how to build each of my models. But I still had a little bit of information that I needed to kind of figure out and put together, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that now. But let's look through these so you can see what each of these units is supposed to look like. So 1 Commando Captain with 2 additional Commandos, and that's my first group right here to look at. As we look here, this right here is my commando captain. I picked this because of the hat that is listed here, as well as the gun that they have on him. And that was also taken directly from where it talked about the commando captain assembly. Then I also needed 2 additional commandos. Now, what I found with commandos was, and this is a perfect example of a commando, is commandos have certain kind of guns. Others have different kinds of guns. This is the kind of gun that usually you want to have on the commando to keep the commandos just like the ones that they have that they're describing. You need to make sure that when you put the arms on here, I always put on the arm that has the gun first. I glued it on, secured it, and then I would glue the section where the wrist goes in and the shoulder, and then I would put this into the wrist, and it would really easily fall into the place of the shoulder. It took me a few times to figure that out, but once I did, it worked out very well. Then for the head, I went through and I just put a dab into the hole and put the head on there. However, what you need to be careful of is you don't want to put your guns too high. Because when I started out, I was starting out putting the guns pretty high up. When I did that, it became more and more difficult to actually get the heads into place. So here are my commandos. Now, one of the things I also found is you're supposed to be able to tell who is the leader of a group. Now, for this one, it was pretty easy because, well, we have the captain of the entire unit or strike force here. So I have my other 2 commandos right here. Now, if I look down to the next one, it tells me that I need 1 Ripper model, 2 models. So what that meant was that's 1 Ripper Mauler's unit. I need 2 models for that. So I was like, what do the Ripper models look like? Well, here are my Ripper models, and it gave me an awful lot of choices on here. I decided that on my Ripper models, I was going to use the big buzz saw, because I kind of like the big buzz saw. Lots of power there. And I was going to use one of these right here, which also connect to this raised arm. So for my buzzer models, I have these right here. And you can see that when I put mine on, the first one I did not do the way you're supposed to. I put it just on here on the bottom, but it's sticking very well. The second one that I did, I looked a little bit closer, and there's actually going to be a hole right here that you can fit this in, and it will fit in better that way. You can see on this one, there's a little tiny circular tab right there. That goes into a hole on the top, which would make it go in a lot easier. Hopefully some of these things are going to help you when you assemble your own. When we look down here, the 1 Ripper Rainmakers with 2 models, we have an awful lot of options right here. I chose the big gun on the right for both of my models just so that I'd have some consistency with them. And they look like this right here. Now, one of the things that I realized afterwards was that they have, in the picture in the book itself, the model they use has this gun turned up, and this string of bullets, the string of bullets is actually coming out of that section right there. So mine I don't think looks too bad, but that is the official way that they have it in the book itself. However, on mine, I'm pretty proud of what I ended up getting there. My next one that I'm going to look at right now is going to be the 2 commanders, 2 times commanders with 10 models. So that means that I have 2 groups with 10 models, or 20 models, but one has to have an HMG. So I went back here and I looked, and my HMG is this top one, and it also has a string of bullets. Now, the first time I did that, I actually put this gun on, and I wanted him to be still the person with the HMG, so I put these bullets coming off of this gun. The next time I realized later that that would be correct. So when I come over here, this one right here is done correctly with it. Actually, I take that back. I apologize. I actually went through and ripped the bullets off so I could put it on the right gun. So this gun here is a little bit bigger than the regular assault. So here's my HMG. This is another one of those that I put a little bit too high. So I had a little bit more difficulty with my head that I put there. And then the rest of my units, you can see here, I started putting the guns much lower, and I put them much lower so that it'd be easier to see. So this is my second unit of command, and I have another unit as well. Also, you're supposed to be able to tell specifically who's the leader of the group, and I thought, well, how in the world am I going to be able to tell that? So I created one model where I put the arm up in the air. That way you can tell that this is the leader because he is saying, "Yo, Joe!" No, that's G.I. Joe, but "This way, troops, we're going into battle." And all the rest of these grunts will follow in this guy, and you can tell because he's the one with his fist in the air. Aha! I did the same thing for this group right here. You can tell he is the leader as well. "Come on, boys. We're heading into battle now." And so I have this group of orcs. You have the one which the larger gun, and then the rest of them, all of those guns right there, I had two-handed. I made sure I used two-handed guns on all of them so you could tell. Then, the next group, it says, I need some brawlers, 10 brawlers with one flamer. That would be this group of brawlers right here. When I created this group of brawlers, I was trying to figure out how you can tell. Now, with brawlers, you have the left arm have some sort of weapon that is a melee weapon, and in the other hand, you have a pistol. So right here, we have two different kinds of things. Therefore, I couldn't have my leader have his hand up in the air because then he has nothing to brawl with. So what did I give him? I gave him an axe. "Don't ask me any questions," is what he says. So as he's running into battle, "Ask not what I ask of you." So I can remember that he is going to be the leader of this troop. Now the rest of them have a couple of different things. Oh, the flamethrower. I almost forgot about him. Flamethrower is pretty awesome. He has here the opportunity to, feel the burn. Then the rest of them here, I have some Wolverine-looking claws on a bunch of them. And I put a bunch of Wolverine claws on them, but I have a few of them that have some knives or daggers there. And the rest of them ready for combat. These guys, I believe, are going to be able to run right in and smash people straight as they run into them. Then I have one more unit of those. But this one only has 5 models, 1 flamethrower. So that's this unit right here. Again, my flamethrower right here, very important to have. Yep, he's hot stuff. Then we have, in this group, I have all knives out. And then, again, to tell the difference of the leader, ask me again a question right here. And that puts together my entire strike force. It took me about 2 days to put these together. I'm going to paint them, but the problem is, in order to paint them, I need to prime them, and my primer works from 50 degrees to 90 degrees, and I live in Texas in the middle of the summer. So what I'm going to end up doing is having to get up at about 4 a.m., and I will paint them with white primer, and then I'll begin painting them all. So that means I'm up at 4:30 in the morning so that I can spray these because it's 76 degrees out here, and it won't be 76 for long. So I brought them out with the plastic, and there were too many hills in it and valleys and differentiating heights, and so the miniatures were moving around way too much on it. So I had to decide to switch it out, and I've put it on some paper plates. As I put it on the paper plates here, I'm hoping the paper plates should hold them all on there. I believe they will. One thing that I wanted to make sure of is that the indentions were very easily seen for every one of them, so that when I spray this, it'll get down into the holes for all of them. I've been shaking my can for a little while here, making sure it's all ready. I'm gonna spray some to make sure it's gentle. Then I'm just gonna come across them. Let those dry for just a moment. Trying to hit all of them there. And hit a full side. Trying to get as much as I can on there the first time around. Hit it for a little bit more of a top side view. I see some edges in there, just want to make sure I hit. And then I'm going to let these guys dry for a while. And then I'll come back out and flip them over. Step 1, almost done. So I've waited about 30 minutes. after spraying them. And I've now flipped them over, as much as I can. Some of them participate a little bit easier than others. I'm now shaking it up, and 30 minutes later, I'm going to have to spray the back sides. Some of them I think I'm going to have to take a third shot at because they're not allowing me to hit all the areas that they need on the second shot. So I'll have to come back and do a few of them again. Let's test the spray just a little bit and get started. I'm trying to cover every bit of them, but not too much, not with too much. You don't get a lot of excess. But you do need to make sure that they're all covered. Otherwise, well, you'll have to go over them again. I'm trying to come out on a couple different angles, but it's still pretty far away, so it's a mist that's on them. Try to cover all the figures themselves. All right, well, we'll let those guys just sit for a while, see if they dry, and we'll see if anybody still has any parts that's going to need to get a little bit more. So now my miniatures are all ready to go. I have them primed up. So I have my units here ready to go with their guns. They're all primed, ready for action. I have some guys here with the buzzsaws, and they are ready to go. I've got the leader of the entire thing with that hat that you can absolutely tell that he is going to be the orc leader. I will crush them all with my claw. And he also has a small gun. And he's surrounded by two of the guys with larger guns and ready to battle. We have up here two more of the guys, orcs with Gatling guns. I mean, if that doesn't get you excited about a game, I don't know what will. Over here, we have brawlers that are ready to go in. They each have the gun and the blade, and they're ready to go. That's a group of 10 of those. And over here, we have ourselves another group of brawlers. There's only 5 in this group, but you notice they have the Wolverine kind of claws. Bub, I'll take you out. I hope that's not copyrighted. But we've got all these guys. They're ready to go. This is what we've been working towards. And when we get there, we'll have them all painted up, and we'll show you that as well. Thank you for watching Waco Miniature Games as we assembled our Marauder army. Marauders in Firefight. They're orcs with guns. I mean, think about that for a minute. What could be cooler in an army than orcs that have guns? Ready to go into battle, sir. So thanks for watching as we put them together, primed them, and please come back and watch the next video on how we paint them up and what they look like then. Have a great and wonderful day, and thanks for tuning in. Enjoy Waco Miniature Games.